Hello and welcome back to the Hellcase Cup 8. We've had our first elimination already. That'll be Endpoint, your team looking to win it, who have been sent home in last, in the playoffs at least. Obviously, they did have to get there in the first place. Now we get to see who's going to go out second. It's Sparta facing off against Havu. I think there's a clear favourite going into this match. Havu have been a team definitely on the rise, or at least having a peak when they played in Flashpoint, also coming on to win the Blast Rising event, but had what I would say is an early upset. They didn't perform particularly well yesterday. They were relatively disappointing facing off against Amiga, who are another team who've been performing quite well recently. The only worry for me is they now have to basically bounce back and prove that they are one of the squads to watch, because Sparta, I wouldn't say they're a team that should be anywhere near their league. At the same time, they've managed a few upsets themselves, done some damage over the last few months, managing to get a 5th place spot going into the RMR event for WePlay. So realistically, kind of expect this to be a Havu victory, but at the same time, I'm not feeling as confident as I did when I was going into the match yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say yesterday. I thought you were picking Havu to be one of the teams up there as well, weren't you? So we could have both of our picks going out early, which maybe just shows that at this level there are a bunch of teams that are at a pretty good level. Because I think it was just Havu individually not showing up for the most part yesterday. And if that happens again against a team like Sparta, you could see similar problems for them in this series. You see the win rates on their maps there, pretty good on most of them. Both teams having these permabans. And then we get the Mirage pick from Sparta, which they go for pretty often. Havu then going for the Nuke, which I think has been a solid map for them. And then Dust 2 as that decider, which we all know can be a very topsy-turvy map.
Yeah, I think the one thing that interests me most about this series, again, we're looking at the AWPers, like you do in a lot of series, but mainly because we've got two sort of very different AWPers in the sense of Zori's someone with a hell of a lot of experience, who I think that has been one of the staple players within this roster, someone I expected to do well yesterday, didn't really step up to the mark. And then you have Dexter, 18-year-old kid who has definitely had some ridiculous statistics going into the recent RMR event, but then didn't quite reach the heights that we expected. Maybe the pressure got to him a little bit. But it was actually some of the other players, like Demo was one of their better performance. Even in some of the matches you saw Patsy, who's only 16 years of age, coming into this and doing some damage. And that's something I think you really have to give to Sparta as an organization is, in terms of a rebuild, they have done very, very well after losing Magix, who was their standout player, has gone on to play in Team Spirit, who managed to finish second and are currently the #1 in the CIS RMR tournament. So it's definitely interesting to see that they've managed to find some more young talent and build around it. It will just be whether or not they can match up against a team like Havu, who've been together a very long time, have more of a strict structure, that's for sure, and more importantly, should be better than them, even just on a man-to-man basis.
Yeah, and I still think there were some issues for Sparta with players like Sotfik, who we know is quite a low-fragging in-game leader for the most part. I felt at that RMR event, Fiddigan was put in some pretty good spots for the most part and didn't really deliver to the level I'd want to across the whole tournament. He had some maps where he was performing pretty well, but across the entire thing, I didn't see enough impact from him personally. And even Dexter, like you were saying, he didn't have the impact. It felt like he was getting kills in a lot of maps, but not necessarily kills that won them rounds, which is kind of worrying as the AWPer of the team. But he's got the chance to maybe prove it to us here. This is the sort of tournament where you'd maybe more expect Dexter to be performing at, I guess, in these sorts of online tournaments where there's maybe a bit less pressure. So I want to see Dexter. I'm still going to be looking out for him. But like you said, Patsy and Demo were the other two players who looked pretty impressive at that RMR event.
Yeah, and again, if they can even have like a decent match here, that would be something for them to take home. I think that Havu are one of those teams that have sort of proven themselves to be a potential top 20 team, but had a bit of a fall off. And again, we don't see them play as regularly as a lot of other teams. Like, they are a team that seems to like to keep a thinner schedule. I was talking to you earlier about how Gambia youngsters, it was evident that some of their players might have needed a break, and then they've got 4 tournaments over the space, 4 online tournaments as well, that also go over the same 30 days in July. So it seems like a lot of teams are just going to be ignoring the player break, and I think for mid-tier and smaller organizations, this could actually be an opportunity to maybe catch up with some of the tier 1 teams. Of course, you know that the likes of like Navi and people, VP, people like that are going to be taking this as a break, giving themselves a chance to cool off, like your G2s, all of that, because they have been playing a ridiculously long schedule. You've had Blast, you've had the RMR, you've had DreamHack as well. Like, not long before that, you had ESL doing the Road to Rio and even the qualifiers coming in to try and get themselves into the next season of Pro League. So definitely a well-deserved break coming up. I believe that starts on the 6th, which is, interestingly, when this tournament has just finished. We will be going until the 5th of July. Either way, we are into our 9th round, of course, on a map like Mirage. It doesn't seem to be the end of the world. We did see earlier in the day, it was actually the pick of the T side that came out for Nordavind, although I will say that it was evident their CT side was the much stronger of the two in the match that was at least play versus Endpoint, but they managed to pull it back on their CT side. Maybe that's something that teams look into. If we can get a certain amount of rounds, we know that we can pull it back. However, in this case, it is looking like we are going to see the CT side taken for Havu. Of course, at the moment, the names at the top need to be switched, and they will be. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Espada can have that same level of impact, because they are one of those teams, again, you see them a lot playing through middle, trying to lurk through connector control, and sometimes you do wonder if some of the more basic executions are missing from them, and if they are going to be able to compete with a team as structurally sound as Havu. And I think that's one of the things that made Havu actually very difficult to play against, is I wouldn't necessarily think that if I was going to pick any of their players and try to fit them into, say, an ENCE or something like that, I think that'd be relatively difficult to do, because I don't think individually they're as good, a lot of the players at least. But in terms of a unit, in terms of their structure, and in terms of their strategies, that's where Havu have always been fantastic. The thing is, after their Flashpoint win, I'm not sure if they've maybe taken their foot off the gas a little bit, or more so, teams have started to pay attention to them. And that's always the sort of curse of success. That's why it's so difficult for teams to stay #1 for more than a couple of months. That's why Astralis were so impressive, because they were able to reinvent their team multiple times, so that even if you could predict what they did a month ago, the next month you play them, they're going to be a completely different squad.
Yeah, I also think for Havu, they might be a team that's actually more favored to playing on LAN, just based on the way that this team plays with their structured playstyle. You want your opponents to be making mistakes more than anything, and that's a little more difficult online, where you can kind of get away with mistakes a little more easily, and you can get away with taking fights aggressively, just with how the lag compensation can work sometimes and the way that the ping works out. I'm already seeing Dexter get involved early in this pistol round. I talked about his pistol stats all through the RMR event. He's a player who's generally very successful in these pistols, but this time round he has been shut down by Saw. Bomb has been planted for Espada though, and they've got pretty good positions for the post plant right now.
The only worry for me is the player within Palace. Dima, though, is actually going to get one combined with Patsy to double up, and now Zori's position doesn't seem as valuable. He's going to be able to pick up a first. The kit, if there is one, is down on the deck, and they're just trying to bait out some of these players, but Espada should have this pistol round dead to rights, even with these kills coming up. There just isn't enough time, and it looks like Zori might just try and take a couple with him. There's an extra kill for him. Of course, every little will help, especially going into the next round, where he may want to force up a scout with some armor.
Yeah, nice start for Espada. I'm definitely going to be watching out for Dima on this T side especially. I think a lot of Espada's T side success that I've seen from them has come from him getting entry kills. More than oftentimes the executes or anything else. It's been Dima who's kind of just won fights that maybe he shouldn't have, that's got them into the round in the first place. And as you were pointing out, against a team like Havu, who are going to be quite structured, that might be more difficult to do. You might not get given those chances to find those easier entries onto bomb sites. But right now, we're not into the gun rounds yet, so we don't have to look at Dima specifically. We have to look at what Havu have got themselves in this round. And the answer is nothing. The one man saved the Kevlar, but he didn't even buy an upgraded pistol. They've all stuck with their default pistols, their USPs for most of their players, as well as the one P2000. And it looks like Espada have found the weakness here. Players spotted in connector, but the bomb is about to be planted on A, and this UMP will be hunting for frags.
It's actually fairly unusual for teams nowadays to save in the second round, especially if you are on the CT side, because it leaves you in a bit of an awkward spot financially for the next. Sure, you're going to have the rifles. Zuri, in theory, could get himself a glass cannon AWP, but it does mean that there'll be some utility missing, and it means that this round is actually a very good chance for Espada to do some damage. They're even going to spend the extra catch that they've just made to actually invest into an AWP, so even the extra SMGs are now dissipated. So there's going to be a pretty big round for Harvard, because they lose this one, they will have to take a hit, and we could be seeing Espada off to a 4-0 start.
Yeah, that would be a scary start for Havu to overcome, especially on their opponent's pick. Zora not ready for Dima, and that is the fast-flying entry fragging that Dima is capable of. And investing so heavily into an AWP without the helmet just gets wrecked by a Galil at the start of the round.
Sword trying to play around the edge of that smoke, and it seems like that smoke has betrayed him almost. It's going to be Dima to find his second kill of the round. This is looking bleak. 3 now, and barely any damage taken for Dima. He's had 22 in return for 3 HAVU players going down. I do wonder if maybe they're underestimating their opponent a little bit here, as these faces have been few and far between. Slowy and Hoodie now left in an impossible situation. They almost have to hope that somebody on the Espada side makes a big mistake. And in all honesty, I'm not expecting that.
Yeah, I was just saying earlier that I wasn't expecting Dima's aggression to work. I wasn't expecting his entry work to be successful against a team like Havu, because I expected Havu to be pretty well set up and pretty well prepared for plays like that. But they just got caught asleep at the wheel right there. Weren't ready for Dima's aggression. Then they just kind of whiffed some shots, it felt like, on the following fights. Hoodie has at least got 1 kill for Havu, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. The bomb's on the A site already. Espada have this round in the bag. And it's looking like a pretty easy start to this game for Espada here on Mirage, here on their choice. Havu just looking to hold on to their 2 guns, a FAMAS and an M4 right now. But like you said, this is the risk you run when you go for this early bite. If you lose out quickly, you can pretty quickly fall behind. And it's looking pretty good here for Espada to get a 4-0 lead, assuming that they can win this next round, where they will be against these 2 saved rifles, because they are allowing those 2 guns to be saved. This also just helps the economy of Espada, though. They should be able to build up some good cash here.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're going to be in a fantastic spot, because now this round can't really be an investment from Havu. But yeah, I have to say, in the initial stages, this is relatively disappointing. I think that Zori gets completely caught out by the fact that somebody pushes that aggressively through mid. But I think when you're playing against the CIS roster, you almost have to expect those sort of plays. Like, if I was looking at any Nemiga demo ever, I would know that they're going to take those fights, and the same for Espada. It's a very common thing within the CIS, and to be honest, the fact that he almost seemed to DC when going for that peak is a little bit worrying. Again, I love this from Dima.
Yes.
So much confidence, so much aggression, just happy to take the fights with no fear. It's definitely risky, but when you're in this sort of team, I feel like they just allow for this. They allow him that space, they allow him the opportunity, and that is one of the cleanest NTeco rounds I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, I really think Espada are at their best when Dima's getting entry kills like that. It makes such a big difference for them, because sometimes they can get bogged down with their executes not being 100% perfect. But when Dima gets those kills, it just makes it so much easier for the rest of the team to push behind him. Because when Dima shows that confidence, the rest of the team can much more easily push behind him and have the confidence to follow him up. So great stuff from Espada at the start of this game. Really, all the signs of life are from Espada right now. We haven't seen much from Havu, but they've got their first full gun round together alongside 2 AWPs. That previous round they did have the full rifles, but it wasn't the perfect buy. That's the perfect fight for Finnegan, though. Wins the initial kill for his team, but Slowy's got one back over at B. So it's into a 4v4 after an early 1-for-1 trade.
Definitely not the opening that the CTs were really hoping for. It seems like they're trying to fight fire with fire, as Saw looks to get aggressive into the Palace. Finnegan actually expects the angle and still manages to win the duel. That is dirty from him. Also getting off to a strong start in this match and trying to stop any repeat coming out from the Palace. The rest of the team are actually planning on joining him. Now, this is a little bit unorthodox. You don't normally see multiple players push out of the Palace unless it's a pistol round where you're trying to get yourself the bomb down. Reason for that, it is very open to multiple angles. Like, peeking out from this spot basically gives the CT side so many angles to hold at once. It's only going to be the one, though. Zori actually hasn't turned his gaze just yet, but they might not expect him to be here. Already extra utility being expended, but he's still on that close angle. Dexter should be dead for sure. The bait comes out, but the flashbang from Slowy makes sure that Zori's not taking any real risks here. They're still just trapped on the edge of this box. Slowly already going to be going down his left. All onto Zori. He gets the first kill. Patsy's actually going to push him, but he'll get it with the pistol anyway. Sparta, it's a little bit close for comfort, but they take themselves their 5th round in a row. And I'm wondering if Havu have actually woken up just yet.
Yeah, that is ballsy from Patsy to just jump on top of the box at the end there. That could have cost him his life, but he gets away with it with the pistol in hand. Wins his team another round, and Espada are cruising right now. I mean, that round was close. At the same time, they've got themselves a 5-0 lead. That push through Palace was definitely risky, but just the ability to get that instant refrag was great. And speaking of great, Dexter is picking them apart. They only had pistols in this round, so a bit of a surprise to see Havu fight mid so aggressively. And that's what Dexter can do to you. Just a firing range for the AWP down mid. No one seemed to be shooting back at him. And it's going to be another round for Espada. I do not see a way that Havu will be winning this. And Espada's money is just going to be so good at this point, especially if they don't lose players here. They're going to be set for quite a few buy rounds before Havu can do anything. And that just makes it even more difficult for Havu to come back into this.
Yeah, this is looking rough. And I have to say, so far, being fairly disappointed with Havu. Like, even just on an individual basis, they cannot match up at the moment versus Espada. And this is what? I guess you could consider them maybe the 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th best CIS squad. Like, it depends what rating you put them in. You got teams like Forza who are currently fairly low down on the rankings. Gambit Youngsters who they beat last time. So, but even still, they're a team that Havu I think would be expecting to beat, and as of right now, they're getting trounced.
Yeah, not really many other words for it, honestly. I mean, there are other words for it. It's just they're all negative. Yeah, this is a strange decision from Havu, just having these players fight mid with the pistols. Dexter's going to land those shots most of the time. I guess they were just hoping that they could get the timing right and get into positions where Dexter didn't have those easy shots to begin with, but there's not much cover at mid. Maybe Havu can start to turn it round in this one, though. They've got themselves another buy on the board. Sophic taking the fight early, wins it as well. The in-game leader stepping up for his team. The flash is on point, and everything is going right for Espada. All their players are showing up. This time, it's Sophic who gets the 2 opening kills. And Havu just aren't winning any fights right now.
No, Zori, the shot misses. He does get a chance to re-pick into lower, and we'll get rid of Patsy. A second as well. This is what we like to see from Zori. A little bit better. Still end up in a 3v3. The bomb's going to be retrieved, and Dima is going to start his move back towards the A site. Now, there is still a man on the site, a rotation available for Zori, but he's actually going in the direction of B, so maybe a bit of a misread. That's mainly because of Dodo's aggressive position, but if they expect this once again, this round might be all over. First kill, second kill as well. Dodo's done enough. He's at least given his teammates a chance. The rotation will be able to come in, but actually it seems like Dexter's going to try and fool the remainder as the rotation's going to go back towards the A site. And by the looks of it, well, I was going to say maybe he's going to B, but I guess he's just trying to bamboozle them one step further.
Yeah, this might confuse Havu slightly because that bomb hasn't been planted yet. The other upside is Dexter still has nades, which could be useful. The problem is, as soon as he throws a nade, he obviously gives away where he's going, so he doesn't want to use that utility early, and Zora's got the angle with the AWP. This should be good for Zora here. Dexter's about to round the corner. Smoke will now be deployed, but that gives the game away. Zora can go for this fight. Oh, he's not in the right position, though. Dexter plants in the open. Oh, he's dead. Slowly pushes through the smoke, takes advantage of the bomb plant, and takes Havu their first round win. They've got to keep going, though, and they might have some limitations in their buy, even into this very round. I think they'll be okay for the most part. They might be missing some nades, but it's not too bad for them. The problem is if they were to lose this round, they have very little money in the bank. They've had to fully reinvest into this one.
Yeah, and a lot of that came down to a couple of pieces of individual brilliance, like Zori being able to find a couple of picks with the AWP, and Dodo with a 2k when he probably should have only got 1, so a little bit of an uncomfortable position, and as you mentioned, Havu definitely not out of the woods just yet. Zori going to be in position once again. A bit of spam through the smoke from Sophic. And might be able to give a free kill, but again, it's not going to be the first shot connected. Hopefully it's like the last round where the first one leads to 2 coming back straight after. Even still, though, with that missed shot, it is going to mean that Havu have had to give up control of middle. And to be honest, their fights for middle thus far really haven't been going too well. Espada have been able to get this mostly for free, or even with some advantageous situations coming out of it. And they're taking over everything, already making their way all the way in towards the ladder room. They've got connector control, have apps control. The only thing I think they've lost is the ramp, and that's something that they haven't actually challenged for in this round. So, if anything, they have everything they need to go fighting into one of these sites.
Smoke goes down into the apartments. That will slow Espada down even further. As it stands, Havu are rotating away from B, though. Slowy's really going to have a lot of pressure on him here. And the thing is, he's pushed into the apartment, so Slowy can not really have the ability to fall back. With such little time left on the clock, he'll sit in the corner to try and buy some time, but here comes the push. They do clear the corner. Dima's entries continue to be successful as he moves into the B-bomb site. Hoodie has rotated over. Bomb yet to be planted. Finnegan goes for the fight, and the bomb is dropped on the bomb site. It's back to a 1v2, but the time is against Dexter. He's got to go for the bomb, and there's just no time left. Now he's got to try and find these kills. The no-scope lands, but there's no way he's getting this second one. Saw just sits back and relaxes. And I've got to say, Finnegan might have just been better off planting the bomb there. Going for that fight was a big gamble, and Havu step up with multi-kills all over that B site.
Yeah, that was too close for comfort, but ultimately, it is still Havu getting themselves another round. Again, no real economy built up, so the pressure is still going to be on them. Dexter doesn't seem to be really missing too many shots. It's looking like they might go for something a little bit quicker, which is somewhat of a common reaction after having a round almost slipping away. Patsy looking like he's going to be the one to break out of the palace. A couple of flashbangs being expended to help the players pushing out through. But with 2 players under dark, it's a bit of a surprise. Patsy actually doesn't get anything and helps with the upgrade. Havu have finally sprung to life and left Dexter all alone. 1 versus 5. Oh, maybe 4. But Slowy is going to shut him down. Finally, Havu get themselves a clean one, and the aggressive stance from Espada has been shut down. Even still, they actually still have enough money to buy here.
Yeah, that was always going to be one of the problems for Havu, is even if they start to win rounds, they've got to keep on going to reset that Espada economy. You can go ahead and check out Hellcase. You can use the code SLTV15 for a 15% refill bonus. You can also open up the Hell Cup 8 Pro case to help contribute to that dynamic prize pool, which is on your screen. Back into the action, where Espada go back to this mid control, which has been successful so far, and Dexter has already got the opening kill to go his way. Saw was just facing mid there. Didn't seem ready for the fight, didn't seem ready for Dexter, and Dexter will happily give his team an early lead.
This has been one of the problems. They haven't been able to shut this man with the AWP down. And again, mid control is definitely one of the weaknesses for Havu at the moment. So having a bit of a rough start to the match, and Patsy looking to try and probe into this connector. Something I mentioned at the beginning of the game. This is something they like to do quite regularly. In fact, a lot of the looser style teams you'll see put a lot more pressure on connector. It is one of those valuable positions. Sophic, this could be perfect. He's going to sneak up behind Slowy. Is he going to spot the gun? He will, and that's a free kill. Already a 2-man advantage for Espada. Looking for their 7th. Hoodie should have the surprise angle and will return the favor onto Sophic. But ultimately, the T's have taken so much map control that they're almost ready to go for an A execution.
Yeah, Havu have got the read wrong right here. They've got 2 players stacked on B, only 1 man anywhere near the A site, and currently Dotto's focused on mid. So he's going to call to his teammates. Well, mid is clear, but I'm not so sure about A, because he's hearing some nades come through, and Dotto's not ready for the man in connector. He's in trouble. If Patsy goes for the peek, Dotto is a dead man, and there it is. Patsy in position, just waiting in connector the entire time. I think that's something Espada like to do pretty often. Like you were saying, not only the connector presence, but also just leaving a man in connector to maybe be a bit of a lurker, maybe to be a player later in the round who kind of goes unchecked. And Patsy just gets the 1 kill that guarantees them the round win. Havu unable to get the right read, and Espada have got themselves a 7th on the board. Oh, Patsy, what are you doing? Oh, yep, you're dead. It's all good, though. They're 7-3 up. We can allow a few silly mistakes like that.
Yeah, I guess he's probably expecting them to be saving a little bit further back, but as you said, doesn't matter massively. It could do a little bit more harm to their economy than they probably would have liked, and the CT side being able to save the remaining weaponry will actually be the difference between them buying and not buying. 2 guns can be dropped, Dotto can purchase another one, and that means they do have enough to go for a purchase, although it may leave a few limitations here and there when it comes to utility or kits or whatever you may name it. But they will have the guns, which is the priority here. So 7-3, Havu in desperate need of a fight back if they are going to be challenging on their opponent's map choice. And it was something we mentioned, like if they are going to be a team looking to fight versus the best in the world and sort of rise up, whether or not we're on LAN or not, this should be a victory that they're taking.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw at that CIS tournament, Espada were a dangerous team at times, but it felt like when it came down to crunch time, Espada struggled sometimes in those 2v2s and those 3v3s. They struggled to make the right decisions. The issue here is that Espada haven't been put in too many of those positions where they have to make decisions like that because they've been winning so many early fights. And speaking of, Dima has been one of the main offenders of that. One of the main players who's been successful in these early duels. He's won another one at the start of this round. And so far, Havu have only had 1 round where they've won the first fight. So that just goes to show how much of an issue they've had, how many times they've been fighting from the back foot to begin with. Dotto, though, just about gets that kill. Finnegan not timing the peak right. So at least this time it's back to a 4v4.
Definitely more of an opportunity. Slowly has spotted the majority of the players. However, Patsy has found a kill elsewhere. A second shot onto Zori as he is decapitated, and one by one the full defense of Havu falls. It leaves Slowy just alone, and Patsy is just wrecking face. He gets his 8th kill, 3 in the round. And Espada, as said, they're just playing with heaps of confidence at this point, and the same can't be said for Havu. And yeah, I agree, really.
Yeah, that's what Havu will be asking right now after seeing some of those shots land.
It might say Richard Lewis yawns.
I mean, it could say that. I don't think so. I don't even know how your brain just comes up with that, Tom.
Well, RL just makes me think of Richard Lewis.
Well, sure, but then you just add yawns.
So then there's a Y. So
all right.
There you go. And also, I'm a genius.
Oh, that's the other part. It's the other part of the equation that I didn't take into account.
Yeah, let's just not talk about school grades, because that might question things. Although I did well in my degree.
That's more important.
That's what matters, right?
You know, I love saying, I get to say to people, technically, I have a Bachelor of Science. Makes me sound so smart. It is in geography, so it's not quite as fancy as it really sounds.
So basically, you should be doing the Weatherman segments then?
Basically, yes.
You should be replacing Sponge for those.
I mean, I don't think I'm at that level yet.
Well, you have the geography degree. He
That's
doesn't,
true.
So
he has, what does he have? He did plumbing, I think.
I
don't know how that comes into play.
So, but yeah, well, let's put it this way: if we need a handyman, I'm not coming to you. That's for sure.
Oh no, dude, I'm useless. Absolutely useless.
I could imagine you crumbling under the pressure of picking up a chair.
Yeah,
so,
it's hard, man.
But if I need someone to tell me if it's gonna rain, I'll probably Google it. But maybe if you're in the room.
And then if you ask me, I'll probably Google it as well.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well, this round has not been a fun one for Havu. They had pistols, but they didn't really get to use them, other than Dotto. Espada are just all looking at his position right now. He's sitting here, he's waiting for someone to peek him, and Finnegan will oblige, and Finnegan will get the kill. 9-3 lead for Espada. Yeah, it's just been lackluster from Havu here. Just on an individual basis has been the biggest problem for them. They've still got a chance to maybe salvage 5 or 6 rounds of the half, and that wouldn't be terrible for them, but you can already see Unicorn, who were favouring Havu to begin with, have now shifted over to Espada after seeing this performance at the start of this game. Another chance for a bye for both teams, and Espada all grouping up around A and lining up some smokes for a standard A execute.
Dodo left completely blind for a large amount of time. They have actually managed to pull a very large rotation, considering that nobody's actually made a push into the site just yet. It's looking like Havu have just decided that they've got to start taking some risks in their defense.
We saw this round from Espada at the RMR. I think they go all the way back to B on this. They fake the A execute again, and we've seen it work sometimes, because when you see that second set of nades into A, you do start to get a little scared. Because look, they're going to use all 3 smokes on A right now. So a lot of teams start to think, okay, we've seen all 5 smokes at A. Surely it has to be A. And there you go. You can see Havu are already rotating.
Yeah, if they go back after this, it is going to be the pure bamboozle. They've sent in Dima. He's got the opening pick there. Still hasn't been a rotation, though. One man in the form of Hoodie has not taken the bay. And Sophic doesn't check the angle. It looks like it might have all gone wrong. What is that shot from Dexter? He's not going to hit the second. The bomb's actually going to go back again. This has definitely fallen apart. The plan might have been a good one, but the execution definitely hasn't been to standard. And now Dexter's left with no bomb and a man still on this site. He's going to know that he's here. Slowy still would like to win this duel, going for a few pre-fire shots. Basically waiting to see if he can bait one out, but eventually he's going to run out of ammo, and a no-scope through the wall definitely makes things a little bit more interesting. The problem now is the time. 15 seconds, there's no chance for Dexter to actually win the round, so keeping the AWP forward is definitely the right call. I don't think the CT side are going to be over-facing in this. They've already saved themselves on AWP and an AK. And I kind of like the idea from Espada. Unfortunately, I think they needed to basically move as a squad, and they looked a little bit too indecisive with what they were actually planning to do.
Yeah, so I think the idea is that the double pump fake where Havu over-rotate to A and then they rotate back to B and then you go A, but it just is overcomplicating things at this point, and I feel like Espada have just been doing fine while winning just the fights and keeping it standard, which hopefully they'll go back to here. I'm glad we're getting to see some more of these plays from Dexter, though. Just some audacious shots being landed there. And this is more of the player that we were expecting to see, more of the skill that we were expecting to see, and he is really delivering here. Finnegan, loses out against the MP9 of Saw. Havu now starting to get a bit more confident, starting to get a bit more aggressive, and starting to get rounds on the board, most importantly. They've got 4 to their name. They should be able to make it 5 as long as they can close out this 5v3.
Dima to take the lead once again, as Hoodie is just waiting around the edge of the smoke. They've got to be careful to check this angle. Patsy's going to do just that, and again, this youngster entry fragging, but he can't quite get past the cross. It's Zori with the AWP, a trade back for Dima as well, and it's a dicey battle. Dodo's messed that one up, that's for sure. Leaves us back into a 2 versus 2 from a 5v3. This should not be possible for the side of Espada, but Dexter adds another to the death toll. It's left all onto Zori. It doesn't matter that Dima's low. He needs to hit the shot with the AWP, and he is not going to. A huge round for Espada to take away from Havu, and the Finns are already looking out of this map.
Yeah, there's not been much love between these two teams here on Mirage, that's for sure. At least not being given by Espada, because they are dominating right now. And this T side has just been too hot for Havu to handle. And I think it's mainly just come down to those individual plays. We've seen rounds where Espada have tried to complicate things a little bit more, not work for them. But when they keep it basic, when they keep it simple, their work together is good enough. Their team play and their individuals are good enough to win them rounds. And that's been the majority of how this game has gone so far. Patsy pushing into underpass, loses out against the UMP of Hoodie. So maybe Havu have got a chance to get themselves a 5th round on the board at the end of the half here. Dexter's already opened things up though with the AWP. I think he's up to 18 kills now. Indeed, 18 frags on the board. Nearly 100 ADR for Dexter. This man has been delivering right here. And there are 3 CTs stacked on A, but Finnegan's ready for them. That's a UMP peeking from stairs, but it works out because of the man up close. And Espada have to overcome a 2v4 to try and close out this half. As they look to move into B, one of the players has already been dealt with, and Dexter, he throws away his weapon, but he hasn't got the AK. Now he gets the AK into his hands. He's got the chance for a 1v1 fight on B. This would be the beginning he would need to the clutch. But unfortunately, he's backing away, and I think that pretty much takes away any chance he had.
Not knowing where these remaining players are going to be. He's 18-4, 19-4. Kid's been playing out of his mind, but he's not quite going to be able to close things out. Very good half for Espada nonetheless, and at least we see a little glimmer of hope coming out of Havu as they do end up with a 5th. Now, we saw this earlier in the day, a pistol round, and the follow-up can definitely springboard a team back into the game, as we did witness Nordavind being able to have a dominant CT side while facing off against Endpoint. At the same time, I'm a little bit worried for Havu, because we haven't even seen a lot of the individual players stepping up on their side. There's been some questionable plays. Slowey's not been having a particularly good game. Saw as well, who was actually one of the better performers in the match that they lost yesterday. Question is, are they going to be able to bring this back while going on to the pistol? And, well, by the looks of it, it's a very aggressive stance coming up from the CT side, pushing all the way up mid. The problem, however, is that the push is already coming in onto A.
Yeah, Dima has to play super safe here. Might just have to play for retake, but they don't have a kit on the Espada side of things. That's the most confusing thing about this setup. If you're going to play retake on A, normally you want at least the one kit in there for the pistol round, but they're just going to have to go fast, and that's already going against them. Zoro winning the initial battle. Trades continuing as Havu take away more ground from their opponents. And Espada can't afford to sit around for much longer here. They've got to start to push towards the site. Hoodie's got the flank going as well, but Patsy hears it. Awkward fight between the two of them, but Hoodie's just buying time at this point, and the time is the biggest issue for Espada. Even with that kill for Finnegan, he won't expect Dotto. Oh, God, this is horrible, but eventually Dotto gets the kill he needed, and the bomb was too far ticked anyway. Havu taking a much-needed pistol round win to keep themselves in this map.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't clean, but they get it done nonetheless. And I agree with some of the decision-making that Espada's making in that round. It just seems a little bit off. Like, if you're not going to have a heavier defense, at least make sure you have a kit ready and prepared, or even a smoke as well, just to make sure that that retake's a little bit easier. We are going to see the CT side fully invest. Fairly common. As said, the purchase we saw from Havu is definitely more of a rarity, and it does give them a reasonable chance in this one. Still some pistols to play with, utility obviously diminished, and, well, a couple of SMGs as well alongside it. Whereas, well, the T's are playing this very safe. They've gone for 4 rifles and a single SMG.
Yeah, got to say, on Espada's CT side, I'd be watching out for Patsy over at B, who's been very good for them in their previous games as that B site anchor. And this time round, he flashes in Dexter very effectively. Opening kill goes the way of Espada. Havu's response is to quickly move into the A side of the map, where Finnegan's waiting for them, as is Sophic. All the fights going the way of Espada. And Havu, oh no, it's all gone wrong for them. The P250 of Sophic gets away with 2 kills. And, well, we thought it was the start that Havu needed, but losing this round puts them in a terrible spot. This is literally the worst economic position you can be in the game, Tom. They've got $1,400 each.
Yeah, I think the only way it could be worse is if they didn't have that extra decoy money saved. So there was an extra $50.
Or I guess you lose money for team kills, don't you? So technically.
Potentially.
Or maybe if you die to yourself, do you lose money?
I don't think you can, but you can't go into minus money.
Well, no.
So it would still be $1,400 at the beginning.
Yeah, you're right.
So only the 50 that they didn't spend is the bonus, and it's not a particularly good bonus. In fact, they're coming into this round with just Deagles and Kevlar, and they are getting absolutely slaughtered. This is going to be such a big win for Espada. They get themselves up to 12. Now the eco comes in as well, so they're going to build up so much extra cash. They've got to save all 4 of the rifles that were up for Havu in the round where they purchased. I said it was a safe buy because they had so many rifles. Instead, it might be their undoing, as they've given every single one of them over to their opposition. And I'll be honest, if Havu bring this back, I'll be thoroughly impressed, because they have had a severely underwhelming match so far.
This is ideal for Dexter as well, who already has $7,000. He's got the ult for a while, at least for a couple of rounds if he wants it. I like that Havu are taking risks here, trying to push through the Molotov. They have to do something crazy in this round. They're also trying to fake so the bomb can go B. I mean, I guess if he wins the fight against Patsy, he's got a chance. And he actually gets a dink, but no kill. No way to get the bomb down. And now Havu need to win this round to have any chance here on Mirage, realistically.
Yeah, we've just witnessed the classic you will go A, I go B with bomb. The legendary strategy stolen straight from matchmaking that works.
Dude, I have a friend that
roughly,
calls that every game.
It works roughly about, I would say, 0.1% of the time. It is a trash strategy. I did like, I remember back in the day, it was like an old Luminosity team, not the legendary one, the one after that. Okay, that's interesting. Who basically on train would throw one man out B ramp as the fake, then throw 3 men out Ivy, and then there'd be one more upper B to go and plant the bomb.
Cheeky.
And it worked, and it was genius. And I think I've seen it work once since then, ever. And that was a few years ago. So it was genius at the time, but it doesn't work very often. This has started fairly well for HAVU. The rifle's in their favor, but there's Finnegan to turn it back to an even scenario once again. And in these clutch situations, in these close situations, it just seems that every single time Espada are the ones to come out on top. Patsy, with a decent angle, takes the fight, but can't win the second one. So that will at least lead a path towards this B site. The problem, though, is they still have to retrieve the bomb. And that could be a real problem, especially with the position of Finnegan, who's actually going to go all the way around into top mid. It seems like Sotfik still knows where that bomb is going to be. And even if they do go towards the B site, he's going to have the perfect flank available. Slowy just about wins that duel, so that will at least give them the opportunity to retrieve the bomb. Although they still haven't done it just yet, and there's only 30 seconds left on the clock. They've got to make a gamble of where they actually think this remaining player is going to be. Now, he was originally on this A side, but it seems like HAVU have gambled on the fact that he would have moved by now, and they have got it spot on.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised, actually, that HAVU end up thinking that A is clear, or rather, just go into the A site. I feel like Finnegan made a pretty decent decision to try and go back to B, but I guess with the bomb being dropped in connector, with such little time left, it was always going to be a bit of a problem to actually make it to B in time. So they just go towards A together, they try and make sure they can trade it out, and now Finnegan's chances are limited here. He basically has to guess where these players are. He's so far removed from the action that it really is a guessing game at this point. That nade, though, oh, it almost gets the kill, but Slowy survives on 6 health. And Finnegan is just going to get away with the AWP. So, again, Degster, who already has $10,000, even gets the AWP saved for him, which is lovely for Espada. And once again, HAVU are running into the same issues where, because Espada have built up so much money early, there's still at least 2 more gun rounds left for Espada before HAVU even have a chance of resetting them. And that is always a difficult position to be in when you basically just have to win out on your T side.
Yeah, they've basically got a mountain to climb, and that mountain is made of cash. They basically just need the Joker to come and light half of it on fire, and then maybe they'll stand a chance, because this is a horrible position to be in, it's safe to say, but they are definitely a team with a strong mentality, and we've seen them come back from crazier situations in the past, so it'd be a fool to doubt that it's impossible for the Finnish side, but just with what we've seen so far, it hasn't been particularly impressive. Degster alongside Patsy once again. We're going to see this aggression, and just Patsy just wrecks Hoodie out of the round. They're going to go for the classic trade. In the meantime, there's going to be a push through the smoke. Saul might be able to catch Dima off guard. He's facing completely in the wrong direction. That's a free kill for him. Also, Degster wasn't quite prepared, but somehow still manages to win that duel. Now the real play comes in from Finnegan. A good early peek. He's not quite going to transfer onto the second. And Sotfik so low on HP. He has to be careful. In fact, he's catching the nade. Zori should win this duel, but never mind. Degster just doesn't seem to be missing. And he's in fact just going to fall back. Not allow for that trade to come in before he gets the reload. Smoke will be thrown out. But in fact, he's going to make his way through the window. Take the safer bet as the bomb is looking to be planted. It's just whether or not it's actually expected for him to already make this cross. He does so much damage onto Dodo, who already has 2 kills to his name. But Degster doesn't actually see him cross back over to the other side of the site. The incendiary should give him a clue that this man has already gone past. And of course, Degster will win it for them once again. 24-7. I would defuse the bomb before you go and retrieve any weaponry, Degster. I'll be honest at this point. But he does have a kit, and it will be comfortable.
Yeah, Degster has been just destroying them, in all honesty. 24 kills for him. I'm really enjoying seeing him just having more impact, because he was putting up numbers at the Clutch Island, but he wasn't winning rounds that often. And here, he actually is winning clutches. He actually is winning rounds. And, You can see that Unicorn have slowly but surely been switching in favor of Espada, realizing maybe they got the read wrong in the first place, because Havu were slight favorites coming into this, but Espada looking strong on their own map pick. That's a point we have to make, though. This is Espada's map pick, and Nuke up next would be one where you'd expect Havu to have a much better showing. It's a map that would, in theory, suit them much more. And I think, in general, Mirage is the map where if you don't show up individually, it's very difficult to actually win the game. So Havu... Oh, wow. Finnegan gets 2 kills out of that. He even gets an assist on Hoodie as well. And this game is slipping away from Havu slowly but surely. This should be a 15-7 lead for Espada, unless Saw and Zora have something to say about it.
Yeah, the last time they played Nuke was quite a while ago, but might not be getting there just yet. Saw so close to getting his second kill. Dexter just waiting on the cross, but he's got to be careful. That flick was lightning fast. He doesn't quite manage to hit the second one, but now Dima can come in to save the day. That was disgusting from Dexter. He's just not missing a beat at this moment in time. And I'll look at what is left, Alex, to try and save the day. It's the pistols.
That's sad. It's always sad when you're facing round 15 and you only have pistols. I feel like we could get some good nicknames for Dexter. Like Dexter the Destroyer of Worlds, maybe? Maybe just the Destroyer of Fins right now, in all honesty. Some good things you could do with his name. I like it. Yeah, just pistols for Havu. There's not much to say about Mirage. It feels like at this point, it should be Espada taking this one over the line. I said earlier, watch out for Patsy's hold on the B site. He's not really been needed. It's been a lot of successful A site holds from Espada so far, and it might be one more A site hold for them. Sophic gets the first kill at mid, and here comes the A play.
Quick push coming in. I think the footsteps have been heard, and it's all too easy for Finnegan. He as well has had a very good game. He's been slightly overshadowed by the performance that has come out from Dexter, but he himself currently up on 22 kills. Great to see these sort of new players within the Espada roster performing so fantastically well. And Hoodie, well, this will be a clutch for the ages. A total of 22 damage done to his opposition thus far. 5 players standing and a minute left. If he had a Molotov, I'd tell him to sit in it, because there is absolutely no chance for him winning this round. The bomb down, you can even see that Dexter's ready, watching the flank, just in case he is going to come through this angle. And he is going to be making his way forward, and Dexter will close out the map. Absolutely dominant, and I am looking forward to watching the highlights and just seeing basically an Espada frag movie, because this has been incredibly dominant. I honestly thought that this was going to be much more of a competition at a minimum for Havu, as I do expect them going into this to be the better team, but they were completely absent all the way through that map.
Yeah, they just didn't show up, in all honesty. And over on the Espada side, again, we were talking about Dexter, we were talking about Finnegan at the end there. Dima had a bunch of rounds where he was getting entry kills as well, which is always going to be a big thing for this Espada team. If he gets entries, I always feel like that's a big difference. And we didn't even have to see much of Patsy. He was solid for the most part. Sophic there with them as well. Just in general, what else can you say? Just a great performance from Espada. And Havu have got to step up on Nuke. It's as simple as that. Even if it's not a map on Nuke where you have to be as skilled individually, necessarily, you still got to win fights. That's what Counter-Strike's about at the end of the day, and they just did not win enough of them.
Yeah, and the worrying thing is even looking at Espada's Nuke games, I'm sure it's not one of their better maps, but they've beaten Amiga, Hard Legion, Pact, come close versus Spirit. The only dominant loss that they actually have on this map is versus Spirit, who I would say are a fantastic Nuke team. When they get going, they're a terrifying squad to play against. Sure, they've had some losses against like Kova, but that was in overtime. You can even look at like an overtime loss to Na'Vi in the first Road to Rio. They can definitely put up a fight on this map, and if even just the individual players on Havu are playing like they have in this map, I would almost favor Espada to win it. It just hasn't been an impressive showing over the last couple of days. I don't know if they're in a bit of a slump, maybe just ready for that break, which is going to be coming up relatively soon. I do wonder if Havu are going to be one of the teams actually taking a proper break going forward. And yeah, well, this is the scoreboard. It's pretty much every single member. There's only one missing, and it's the man that you mentioned, Patsy, who just didn't really have that much to do, but still had some impact plays, especially his entry fragging. Zori was the only one really doing anything. Like, there were a couple of rounds that they managed to win, and a lot of it came off his individual brilliance. That scoreline, though, and that rating from Dexter is filth. 3.71 KD, absolutely dominant. And yeah, this is a comparison that I don't really think we need to be making, because it was a night and day performance between these two players.
Yeah, I think I said it previously, where when your best player has a negative KD for the map, something's probably gone horribly wrong. Whereas for Dexter, complete opposite, complete performance across the board, really, for him. There were rounds where I felt like he was fed some kills with the AWP, especially on those low buys from Havu, but at the same time, you've got to land the shots, and he had impact in the gun rounds as well. 15 AWP kills for him in that game. I don't know if there's much more we can say about this map, really. It's more looking into Nuke, what Havu can show up with, because that is normally a map that's strong for them, but I don't know if they've got enough individual skill right now. Like you said, Zora's the only one really showing up.
Yeah, it's not been the best performance from them, but hopefully that was just the Mirage Blues and now making their way onto Nuke. We will see if Havu are going to make the comeback and take us to a third, or if they will be the second team out of the playoffs. We'll be back after a short break.